Al and Kathy, I want to thank you both for taking the time to visit with me today. I know that we helped when your father passed away, Kathy, a few months ago. Is that correct?
Yes, she did, and it's so good to see you again.
Oh, thank you. And how did Larkin do in serving your family?
Excellent. Larkin is the best.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I'll pass that information along.
Yes.
And how are you and your family doing?
We're doing well. We're going out to the cemetery, and
good.
One of us trims around, and one brings flowers. And,
oh, how nice.
You know, it's nice to have him so close.
Oh, good. And Al, were you close with your father-in-law as well?
Oh, yes. Yes, and we really appreciate everything you guys did. It was wonderful.
Oh, great. Thank you.
It was a difficult time, but sure made it a lot easier.
Well, thank you for sharing that with me. Well, I know we spoke on the phone when I talked with you, Kathy. Part of our service at Larkin is to provide continuing care by bringing out what's called a personal wishes organizer. Were you able to share a little bit about that with Al when we spoke on the phone?
No.
Okay, that's okay. That's more common than not. It's not something we think about every day, but I think you'd both agree that it's important to have your final wishes documented. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so have you ever talked about this between the two of you, Al?
No, not much.
Well, I think we should have funeral plans.
Okay.
And I think he believes if he buys a funeral, it means he's going to die.
Oh, okay. Is that true,
I mean,
Al?
that's ridiculous, but there's something about buying that funeral that makes it more real, and it just makes him very nervous.
Okay. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, that's part of it, you know, and the rest is we're very busy, and it's something that we'll get to in the future.
Okay. So you'll notice here that you're keeping both parties engaged. Quite often you'll have one person, the man or the woman, that sort of takes charge. You need to make sure that you're keeping them both involved in the conversation. And you need to reinforce, if one answers for another, that that is in fact what they think. So Al, if I understand correctly, there is a part of you that's a little hesitant because you don't want to think about this. And this does bring to fact the reality that at some point we all are going to pass away. But also life just is busy and crazy, and it's not something
Well,
we
I
have
know you're
time
talking to Al, but I think part of it is the money and the monthly payment, committing to that.
Great. Okay.
You know.
Oh, good. Thanks for sharing that with me. So another concern is part of it is the cost.
Yes.
Okay. And it sounds like you're relatively familiar with that since you've just had to help with your father's passing.
Yes.
And did he plan ahead?
He did plan ahead. He planned everything down to the last flower.
Okay, wonderful. And how did that either help or not help in that experience?
Well, it helped a lot because then there was no dissension on we want this, we want that, other than how we want him dressed, and I took that on.
Okay.
But everything was done.
Okay.
And I really thank him for doing that.
Okay.
When the family came together at that time, we were able to visit more and not have to be paying attention to all the things. There were so many things I didn't realize even.
Right, all those fine details you don't think about. So it sounds like there's a lot of reasons that you've maybe had some hesitations, but it sounds like maybe there's also some reasons that you've allowed me to come over today. So if you don't mind me asking, and I know this is difficult to think about, but if something had happened to both of you yesterday, who would be in making arrangements for you today?
Well, obviously our children would be left with that.
Okay, and how many children do you have?
2.
Okay, what are their names?
Their names are Eli and Aaron.
Okay, so if you had passed away, would they come in together?
Yes, they're very close.
Okay, and financially, do you have an idea of how they would pay for things?
No, frankly, not right now.
Okay, I appreciate you sharing that with me. These are important questions to ask, as difficult as it is to think about. You have to bring to fact the reality that there will be a day that comes that someone has to make these decisions. So you have to make sure to ask these questions before you go into the planning guide. I appreciate you sharing that, and that's not an uncommon answer, and that's part of why we're here today. So thank you for that. And do you mind me asking, do your kids get along?
Very well.
Oh, good. So that helps quite a bit.
Yes, I know that sometimes at funerals it brings out the worst in people.
Yes.
It can also bring out the best. But with my kids, I don't expect there to be any fighting or anything like that.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that with me. Well, if it's okay, I'm going to now go through a few pieces of information, including the personal wishes organizer. Al and Kathy, this is the book I was telling you about on the phone. This is our personal wishes organizer. We have had families bring this in on what is unfortunately one of the worst days of their lives and tell us this is the most valuable book they could have ever received.
I can believe that.
Yeah, so we're going to go through, fill out a little bit of information, and at the end of it, most families ask how they can get some of these for friends and families close to them. We'll go through this at the end, but just so you can kind of be thinking of a few people that may want this book for themselves.
So can you give me the book and I'll give it to my friends?
Oh, that's a good question. I'll answer that at the end.
All right.
Great. It's important to explain the value of the book before you start and then ask for permission to proceed. So this is what we call an umbrella of protection, and it talks about all the different types of insurances that we have, and I'm sure you have. We have medical insurance, homeowners insurance, car insurance, and that's to protect us in the event that something may or may not happen that's bad, but it would protect us in that event. Is that correct? I'm sure you have all of those things.
Yes, we do.
The one thing that we know is inevitable, which is our passing, is the one thing that quite often we're not protected from. That's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. I like to ask, just so I know what to focus on, so that I'm not talking about things that maybe aren't important to you, what the main reason for each of you is that pre-planning is important. Sometimes it's putting your house in order. A lot of times it's peace of mind, making these decisions together instead of having to do that alone, stopping inflation, preventing emotional overspending, which can happen quite often, or removing the burden from your children and your loved ones. Which of those would be the most important for each of you?
I think peace of mind is the main thing, because, you know, life is complicated enough, and if you didn't have to worry about that at all, that would be a great relief.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with me, Al. And what about for you, Kathy?
I think doing it together.
Okay.
So I know what he wants or he knows what I want, and he doesn't have to worry about picking this out or that out or would I have wanted this or not.
Wonderful. Thank you both for sharing that with me. It is important that this question is answered before you proceed and that they each answer in their own words. If it's a short answer, you need to ask them to expand on that. There's no point in proceeding if they haven't told you that they already think conceptually this is a good idea. So we're going to continue. This book is about 18 pages. We're not going to cover the whole thing today, but I'm going to cover some of the most important pages.
Okay.
So this first paragraph here, this page sort of explains to your children and loved ones why you've decided to sit down and plan your final arrangements. I like this first sentence. I think it really encapsulates the purpose of this book. I'm just going to read this to you. And you'll notice you'll lower your tone here. This is where the tone should start to get a little bit more serious. If it's been a little more jovial, it's time to settle it down. In this personal wishes guide, you will find information I have recorded and arrangements I have made in advance, hoping to relieve you of the burden of these decisions when you're under stress. Kathy, you will sign your book. Al will be the witness, and then same for yours. Any
Good.
questions about that page?
No.
Okay.
It just makes me sad. It reminds me of my dad and
I know.
what we went through.
And that can be a very difficult time.
But I want my kids to have everything in order.
Right. Oh, that's, I think that's a common sentiment from people. And it's one of the kindest gifts that you can give to those that care about you. This first page is what we call personal information. That's the vital statistics that would be used for the death certificate. So have either of you ever had to fill out a death certificate?
Yeah, we just did
Yeah.
with her
How
dad.
was that a simple process or not a simple
No,
process?
it was not.
Yeah.
We had to find social security numbers. We had to find military records. That part was a little not taken care of.
Would it have been helpful if he had filled that out ahead of time?
Yes, it would have. Yes.
I've never heard anyone say no to that question. So one of the things we're going to do today that you'll have completed before I leave is the information for each of your death certificates. Even on our best days, this can be difficult information to recall, so you can imagine how difficult it would have been if Al had passed away and Kathy, you were left to have to remember this on your own. So Al, what is your first, middle, and last name?
Alfred.
So I'll stop now. We're not going to fill out the whole page, but just very assumptively start filling this out. You'll find this will also expand upon the warm-up. So if someone was a little bit more closed off, there's some information here. For example, were you a veteran?
No.
Were either of you a veteran?
No.
Okay. And what did you do for your occupation?
I was in sales.
Oh, tell me a little bit more about that. So it gives you a chance to start asking them more. If they were a veteran, I have a kind of a rule of threes. You want to ask 3 questions, and then with each question, ask 3 follow-up questions. You never want to ask a question and then act like you're not interested in their answer. So for example, were you a veteran? Yes. Which branch? Did you serve in active wartime? What years were you enlisted and discharged? So that you're making sure that you're engaging them. After this is done, you'll want to fill out 1 page for each person, and then you just put it back here. So now, good news, we've got that done for each of you. You won't have to worry about that down
Thank
the
you.
road.
And thank you for filling that out for us. I filled out so many forms. I'm just,
One less to have to worry about.
Right, that
And
you-
I'll leave a copy
Thank
with you
you.
as well. You're welcome. This next information is details for the service. So have either of you talked about what type of funeral service you want?
Not really.
That's a more common response than not. So your father passed away, and you said your mother has also passed away?
yes.
So traditionally, what have your families done for funeral service?
My mother was LDS, and she wanted an LDS funeral.
Okay.
We're not LDS, but we gave her what she wanted,
Okay.
down to everything.
Okay. And did
And-
that include an evening viewing and a daytime service?
Yes, and the
Okay.
white gown and the hood and everything.
Okay.
And I know what she wanted. That she would have wanted that.
And was that because she was able to share that with you ahead
Yes,
of time?
and in fact, she said I would be the one to do the funeral arrangement for her because she knew I would carry out the Mormon
Oh,
part of the funeral.
well, that must have been nice for you to hear. that
Yeah,
she
it
trusted
was. It
trusted
was.
you with that. So, and then your father was different?
He didn't believe in God,
Okay.
and so we gave him a lot of the military, which he did believe in. He was very patriotic.
He
Great.
was in World War II,
Yes.
a veteran, and so, we honored that by having all the veterans, the things that go along with a veteran's funeral.
Oh, and you said
Which is what he wanted.
Right.
In fact, he wanted to be buried at the Veterans Cemetery, which we didn't want.
Oh,
And I know we could have overridden him and buried him at, your cemetery, but we knew that he wanted to be buried with the military people. And that was the only decision that we really had to have a family meeting about, and we decided to let him be buried where he wanted to be buried, even if it wasn't where we wanted to be buried or where we wanted him to be buried.
right. And I'm sure he would have been happy to know that.
Yes,
that's where
he
was
would be
laid to
happy.
rest. Oh, and what branch of the military was he in?
Navy.
Oh, how wonderful.
He was active in World War II.
Okay, so that shows that 2 very different people, different types of services, but both honored who they were and their wishes. So tell me what you would want, Al, for your service.
Traditional.
Okay, what does that
Yeah.
mean for you?
Well, a normal funeral with a casket and service, viewing, and
Good.
you know.
Yeah, that's great. I always just ask because it means different things.
Do
to
you ask
different
me what
people.
I want for his funeral?
Right. Well, and because it sounds like you've been very involved with the community and your business, and based on what you shared with me earlier, so you'll have a good amount of people that want to honor you. And so, do you think you would want an evening viewing the night before and then the service the next day
I believe so.
prior to the graveside? Okay. And then what would you like for yourself?
Well, what I would like for him.
Okay.
Well, he has a lot of Jewish in his background.
Okay.
And he studied, a lot about Judaism, and I would like him to have a Jewish funeral.
Okay.
And, the wooden casket. Do you have any objection to that?
No, not at all.
Well, good thing we're here talking about it. We'll
Yeah.
write this down.
Because maybe I want something different than he
yeah.
wants.
So
But
how
he
do you
might
feel
want
about that,
also.
Al?
Sure, I feel fine about that.
How long have you two been married?
43 years.
Well, I can see why. Okay, wonderful. And then what about for yourself?
For myself, that's harder. Well, I'm like my dad. I don't believe in God.
Okay.
But I would just like people to get up and talk about me
Okay.
and be happy.
Great.
And I don't know about a viewing. It depends on how I go.
Right. We'll
But
talk about
but
that.
yeah, generally a viewing would be fine.
Okay. Well, thank you both for sharing that. I know it's difficult to think about, but it sounds like you both have a lot of people that would want to come and love and honor you and support your family. So that's where you're going to make some notes about this here. You mentioned that your cemetery is at our Sandy Cemetery, so
Yes.
you'll make some notes about that as well. This is details for your pallbearer. You'll want to make a note for anywhere from 6 to 8 pallbearers. Write that in pencil because that may change, but it is important to have it written down. A little bit more information about the cemetery. I'll let you go through that. Now, obituary. Have you ever had to write an obituary?
Yes, I wrote my mother's whole obituary
Okay.
and my dad's whole obituary.
Okay.
And that took most of a day.
That took 3 days.
3 days.
Wow.
That was
3
the
days.
worst.
Well, the good
Yeah.
news, we've broken it down for you where if you write it sort of in bullet point form, our funeral directors will then help the family put that together. So then no one feels overwhelmed with what can be a very daunting task.
That would be a big help.
Great. And then non-immediate family members that would need to be contacted or friends that maybe the kids wouldn't have their contact information
Okay.
so they know who to notify. And then a little bit more information here. Do you have a will and a trust set up?
Yes.
Okay, so most of the rest of this information would be included in your trust.
Okay.
But it's worth just reviewing to see if anything needs to be changed. And then do you have any insurance policies?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. We'll talk a little bit more about that. If someone at this point says they have life insurance, this isn't the time to deal with that objection, or you're just simply gathering the information. Bank accounts, credit cards, so on. And you weren't in the military, so you don't have to worry about this page. So we're now going to talk about the fact that there are 2 ways that these decisions can be made. You said you've been married for 42 years, is that correct?
Right.
So my guess is you probably don't so much as buy a piece of furniture for your living room without talking to each other
We don't
about
do
it.
anything without consulting each other.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, even where do you want to go to dinner can be a difficult conversation, right? Unfortunately, we see people come into this funeral home every day that are forced to have to make these very difficult decisions on what is the worst day of their life because they are now alone and they don't have their spouse to look to ask them what they would want for their final arrangements. Even what you mentioned about the Jewish service, you may very well want that, but probably just having that confirmation from Al of him saying, yes, that's okay, gives you some comfort to know that that's something you can do. So quite frankly, there are only 2 ways that this can be handled. It can be done on what will most certainly be the most difficult day of your life. These decisions would then be made out of a place of grief and uncertainty, and it's just very difficult, as you can both imagine. Or they can be done together while we're here today, and we have the comfort of knowing that we're able to look at each other and know that we're honoring each other's wishes. It sounds to me, based on what you've shared with me earlier, that the second of the 2 is what you would prefer to do. So if you'd allow me to continue, I'd like to explain a little bit more about some of your options and answer some of the concerns that you shared with me earlier. Is
That would be
okay?
fine.
Wonderful. It is important that you ask that question before you proceed. I call these the bookends. So the umbrella of protection is the first bookend, asking them why they think pre-planning is a good idea. The easy way, hard way page is confirming that yes, they in fact would like to make these decisions together. You're not asking for a financial commitment, you're just asking that in theory they would rather do this together. The pages you choose in the middle are up to you. I say pick 4 or 5. More than that, you're going to overwhelm them with information. They'll have the books to fill out on their own afterwards. So we've now filled out the vital statistics form. We're going to transition into talking with them a little bit about services. It's important to do what's called price framing, which is get an idea of what they think a funeral costs and give them a realistic idea so that you don't get to the end when you're now talking about their money specifically and having them in shock at the cost. You want to get that out of the way right here. So we've talked about services. It sounds like you're thinking about a traditional service for each of you and you have your burial plots. I always just like to ask, especially where your parents planned in advance, do you have an idea of what a funeral in the state of Utah costs today?
Well, I saw on TV, I think an average funeral is $6,000.
Okay. Yeah. What would you say?
Yeah, I was thinking 8. I think for the last one, that's what it ran.
Okay. Yeah. I always like to joke with people that let's get the shock of it out of the way today. If you're going to fall out of your chair, I'd rather be here with you. So an average funeral today in the state of Utah is anywhere from $12,000 to $15,000. Now, we do funerals that are $30,000. We do funerals that can be less than $12,000. But that is everything related to cemetery, funeral, burial, and incidentals. So your point is correct. A funeral service itself can average close to $6,000. But today, we're going to be talking about casket, merchandise, opening and closing of the grave, vault, all of those items My goal today is to be totally transparent with you about all the costs that will be associated with your final expenses. The funeral portion is one small piece of it, but there will be other costs. We don't want you to find that out on such a difficult day. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions about any of that specifically?
No.
Okay. Okay. So at this point, if they have a huge concern with the cost, this is the time to talk about it. If you're at the end and you're trying to close a sale and also now discuss with them about the validity of how expensive a funeral should or shouldn't be, you'll never win. You have to have that conversation before you're ever talking about their costs specifically. Now, if someone says, that's way too expensive, there's no way, good news, we can definitely make this much simpler for you if cost is a concern. If you want an extravagant funeral, we can do that as well. I'm a visual person, I don't know about the two of you, but this seems to make this breakdown a little bit easier in my brain, and it simplifies the whole process that can otherwise be quite overwhelming. So I have a larger version here that we're going to go through together. So this is a pie chart of all the decisions that will need to be made. The bottom half here is everything related to your cemetery costs, and the top half is everything related to the actual funeral itself. So the cemetery property, it sounds like you've already got taken care of. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Right.
So as we make the decisions, we just X them out so that they know that we've discussed it. Are you familiar with a burial vault?
No.
Okay, that's not uncommon. Burial vaults are required by most cemeteries, and that's essentially what the casket is set inside of to protect the ground from caving in at the top. And I have a picture I'll show you. So if you look here at this illustration, this shows the ground here with the vault and the casket inside of that.
Oh, I
Can
see.
you see that? Otherwise, if you've ever seen some of the older cemeteries where, it caves in and there's some problems, it also protects the casket itself, which is very important to family and the loved ones. So you want to have an illustration that shows them what a vault is. Some people know what it is, some people don't. I still show them just so that they can visually see it. Now, vaults, like everything, range in cost. There's your basic vaults, there's your real high-end vaults, and then there's your middle of the road. If it's important to you that you have a bronze vault, we have those. Those can be anywhere from $3,500 to $4,500. If you want just the basic concrete vault, that's about $1,595. Or if it's important to you that that's sealed tight so that it prevents moisture from getting in, that's a stainless steel vault, that's about $2,595. Which of those do you think would make most sense for your needs?
I think just the basic vault.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, and that's what most families choose. So as they're making decisions, you just write it down. You're just providing the information to them, and then they'll usually choose the middle, or on the vaults, they'll usually choose the basic. But you want to make sure to provide them with all the options, because some people it is important that they have a higher end vault. So the next is the marker. We're going to leave that out. Since you did the marker with your cemetery property, we don't need to talk about that today.
Okay.
You do have opening and closing fees at the cemetery. I did some research before I came out, and the opening and closing fee at your cemetery is $1,095.
Oh.
So I'm going to make some notes as we go here. This is where you want to start writing directly on the funeral protection plan, which is the cost estimate form. So it looks like opening and closing, $1,095. So, good news, we've got everything related to your cemetery costs taken care of.
Okay.
The next section is funeral services. Fortunately, because of what you've shared with me, I already have an idea of what package would fit for you, but I'll explain it to you in detail and you tell me if there's anything you want added or removed. Most families we serve find that the traditional funeral package is what they would like for themselves, which is what you've both shared with me. So I'll explain this to you and you just tell me what questions you have. So when the time comes and you've passed away, we have a director on staff 24 hours a day. We'll be there within about an hour or so of receiving the call. We do the embalming, dressing, casketing, cosmetology. It allows for as much private family visitation as you would like. And then we'll set up for the evening viewing the night before, and then the service the next day with the visitation prior to. This includes all the transportation to the graveside. We set up for the graveside service, and then we bring the family to and from in the limousine to the graveside and then back to the funeral home or church. Itemize that $6,020. When you plan ahead and as a package, it does save, and that's $49.95. Is this sort of what you're both envisioning?
I guess so.
I think so.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's important that you explain to them in detail based on what your funeral home offers. Don't assume that they know what's involved in a funeral package, because most people don't. And then tell them specifically what the price is, and then confirm with them that that is in fact what they want. Also, if someone wants a graveside, explain to them the benefits of a service, but once they've made it clear that they want a graveside, don't try to talk them up or sell them something more than they want. They'll be offended. So what you should know before you get to this point, what service they want based on the conversations. Okay, so that's a traditional service. The next section will be talking about the merchandise. That's casket, flowers, programs, register book, whatever your funeral home offers in addition to caskets. You have to be careful here that families don't get overwhelmed. They're already receiving a lot of information. If we give them too many options with the casket or with flowers, they'll get a little overwhelmed, they get flustered, and a confused buyer will never buy. So especially as you're dealing with people that are a little older or maybe don't understand, that have never dealt with this before, or emotionally might be in a place that they're already dealing with a lot, it's your job to simplify this piece for them. So the next section is caskets. Have either of you thought much about a casket? Some have and some haven't.
No, she has, I guess, evidently,
Yeah.
but not I.
Well, I've thought about his casket,
Okay, and that you're wanting an Orthodox.
Orthodox Jewish
Wood.
casket,
Okay.
no metal,
Okay, and then what about for you?
the same.
Okay,
But not the Orthodox Jewish, but I'd like a wooden casket
Okay.
like his.
well, and a lot of families find that it's comforting to know that you've had the same casket. The kids will remember that, so that's something that you could do. Let me show you here a few options. So now you'll bring out whatever presentation tool you have for the caskets, but you should already have an idea. If they want metal, you'll show them a grouping of metal. Start with one grouping. If they want wood, start with one grouping of wood. Do not show them all the wood caskets that we have to offer. They will absolutely get overwhelmed, and I've seen more sales lost here than anywhere else because caskets alone they're expensive. There's a lot of options, so it's your job to guide them. So based on what you've shown with me, I'd like to show you the Orthodox
Okay.
wooden casket. Sound good? So at this point, we'll assume that they've chosen their casket. I've shown them a grouping of maybe 5 to 6 wooden caskets that fit their needs. 95% of the time, they will find one within that grouping. You do not need to show them 24 caskets. Okay, thank you, and hopefully that feels good that you've
It does.
picked out the casket. Wonderful. The next is the register book, flowers and programs. Same thing here, just keep it very simple. Write it down. Wonderful. Now we've got all the merchandise done. In fact, all of our guaranteed items we have now written down and taken care of. The last section is what we call incidentals, which is your supplemental cash. So these are items that we can't necessarily guarantee, but they are costs that will need to be covered when the time comes. For example, the obituary. You're probably familiar from your father and mother's passing that those can get kind of
Yes.
expensive. So I just explained to people that at today's costs, a one-day run for an obituary with a photo about an average size is about $650. A two-day run is about $900. But we're definitely seeing a trend where families are choosing one day, and we'll put a link at the bottom to our website and run as long of a version as you would like at no cost on our website. Would you like 1 day or 2 days?
One day.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so.
It's important that you cover costs. I won't go through all the details of this. Based on where you are and what the costs are, that you do include money for supplemental cash most of the time. There are costs that will have to be figured for, and you just want to do your best in estimating those and explaining to them what they are so that there isn't a surprise of $1,000 extra when the time comes. Okay, so we've made all of the important decisions. I always like to ask here, is there anything else you want for your service that we haven't discussed today? For example, a dove release or bagpipers or something additional.
I don't think so. Do you?
Well, I like the idea of bagpipers.
Okay.
Okay, let me make a note about that.
For you, not for me.
Okay.
Okay.
And anything else for you, Kathy?
No, I can't think of anything.
Well, I like the idea of the dove release for her.
Okay. And I'd ask you what you think, but it sounds like you're getting doves.
I'm getting doves.
Okay. It's okay to joke with people. For all the seriousness, sometimes you need to bring it up and not have it quite so serious the whole time. I'm now going to figure the totals, and then I'll explain to you some of your options.
Okay.
Sound good? Explain to them the whole time what you're doing and why you're doing it. So, Al and Kathy, the total for both of you, for everything that we've discussed today, if you had both passed away, is $25,796. Because you're choosing to plan today and have this arranged in advance, we are giving you a 10% discount off of your guaranteed items, which on Kathy saves $1,250 and Al saves $1,250. So that's $2,500 that you've saved by choosing to plan in advance. So after the discount of $2,500, that makes your total $2,796. So the pre-discount price should always be set in thousands. The post-discount price removes 1,000. Psychologically, it sounds less. So pre-discount is $25,796. After the discount is $2,796. So this is where most families ask about their options for paying for this. Legally, a funeral home can't physically hold your money or use your money until the time of passing. So the money is held in an insurance vehicle. This is nice for a couple of reasons. A, it protects you if anything were to ever happen to the funeral home, heaven forbid. Or B, more likely if you were to ever move outside of the area, you could transfer this to almost any funeral home in the nation. The third, and maybe the most important benefit, is that it gives you some options to make payments over time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Always check in at this point. This is a lot of information. Make sure that they're following along with you. So you can either pay in full today, if that's something you're comfortable with, or you can make payments over time. I'm going to give you 3 options over 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years, and you can just tell me what's most comfortable for you. So you want to be very assumptive here. You don't want to say if you decide to or when you decide to. You're going to say by doing this today, you can either pay in full or you can make payments. This isn't the time to start backtracking. Just continue along being very assumptive as you have the whole time. So now I'm figuring. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, you can pay in full at the $20,796, or you can pay over 3 years, which would be $982 a month. 5 years would be $617 a month, or 10 years is only $472 per month for both of you. Which of those would be most comfortable for you?
Well, I think at our age, the 3 years is a little expensive, but the 5 years would work.
Okay.
And 10 years, I don't want to end up having to pay more money for the funeral, right?
Right.
Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. And
Like if we died within 5 years, but yet we're paying on a 10-year plan, we'd still owe half of the funeral.
Yeah, let me explain that to you. But it sounds like based on what you've shared, the $617 a month would be the most comfortable for you.
Yes.
Okay, let me explain. This is a nice benefit by Homesteaders Life, which is the company we use. In addition to all the information and items that are covered under each of your plans, you will receive a benefit to help cover the costs if, heaven forbid, any of your grandchildren under the age of 19 and over the age of 1 year old were to pass away. They would receive a benefit up to $5,000 towards their funeral at no additional cost. So who has better writing? I'm going to have you just fill out the first and last names of each of your grandchildren. Would that be you, Kathy?
No, Al has this right.
Al, you'll start there. I'm going to fill out the homesteaders form, and then I'll answer some of your questions you asked about the insurance.
Okay.
So at this point, this isn't a time to start explaining insurance details or costs or anything. If they've implied any part of, yes, I think this would work for us monthly, you just start writing. The best transition tool is the grandchild writer because it gets them writing, and then you can start filling out the contract. Let me get another pen. Okay, now Kathy, do you use a middle initial?
My middle name is Lynn,
Okay.
Lynn.
And then your first name is Catherine?
Catherine with a C.
C. And then Wadddill?
That's it, yes.
Okay. And what is your birth date?
9/19/51.
Okay. So from here, you just fill out all the paperwork. Once the homesteader's contract is filled out, then you will begin explaining to them in more detail about the cost of insurance. That was wonderful, and quite often you will find if you've done your job correctly up to this point, this is how it goes. This is not uncommon, but probably half the time you're going to be faced with some sort of objection. Don't be scared. if you're good at your job more than half the time on those, you will be able to overcome those objections. So you've got the 3 years, the 5 years, or the 10 years at $472 a month. Which of those would be most comfortable for you?
I think we need to think about this.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Oh, great.
Can we call you?
That looks very
Oh, sure.
interesting. Give us a
Yes.
card.
Okay, oh, absolutely. You'll have all of my information. And actually, we find that most families want to think about this and talk about things. We've talked about some very important things, and probably you want to chat with your kids a little bit and talk to each other
talk to our kids.
without me staring at you. So what we have found that makes more sense for families than not is while we have the information in front of us and it's fresh in our minds, we'll get it all filled out. You only have to make this first payment here today, and it actually gives you 30 days to then make any changes that you feel like you would like. Assuming you feel more comfortable than not, which it sounds to me based on what you've shared with me that you do, and I hope that's true, versus, gosh, we just maybe want to make a couple changes down the road, that's very easy to do.
What if we give you the payment and then we decide we don't want to do this?
That's a really good question. If you decided within that 30-day period as you talked with each other that it just wasn't a good fit, you would receive that money back. So there's no downside to just getting it started today. And Al, for how long you've been putting us off, we don't have to then physically get back together. Does that make sense? What is your birth date, Al?
7/30/36.
So you respond to their objection, answer it, they respond back, you immediately start writing. Don't continue to ask if they're sure or need additional confirmation or affirmation. So immediately start writing. Every time you answer an objection, you want to then start writing. Or $472 a month. Which of those would be most comfortable for you?
I just don't want to make a decision right now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot
Giving
of
the
money.
money, yeah, that's a lot of money to commit to, even the 472.
Yeah.
I think we need to think about it, and we'll get back to you.
Okay. So do you mind me asking, is it the total cost or is it just the monthly investment?
I think it's the month.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. And if I'm honest, our goal is to help you get these things arranged, but we don't want to create an additional stress by making it something that's difficult on your budget. So I know you don't have your bills and your budget sitting in front of you, but it sounds like maybe 472 might be a little tight for your means. Is that correct?
Well, yes, I guess so.
Okay. So if you had to just pick out a number that maybe wouldn't give you quite so much heartburn, what would that number be?
I'm thinking in the $300 range.
So if we could get it closer to 300,
closer
somewhere
to
in
3.
there. You know what I'm going to suggest that we find a lot of families finds works for them is breaking it down into some smaller pieces. Part of why I show you this whole pie chart, and this is the benefit of a pie chart, is that we can do the whole thing at once so you never have to think about it again. Or what a lot of people find is a little easier is biting off pieces that are smaller. So we can redo this and say, for example, Kathy, we just get the top half of this pie chart done, and we can then get back together in the next year or two and look at other pieces. I'm going to do some refiguring and see if we can get it closer to 300 a month. Does that sound okay?
300 to 350.
Okay, so there, now we'll do some refiguring, and all you have to do is work backwards to get to 300 to 350 a month, and they will have committed. Which of those would be most comfortable for you?
Well, we need to talk to our kids, especially
do.
our son.
Yeah.
Because he gets very upset if we do any transactions at all
Sure.
without him going over it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Our
Well,
daughter's better, but our son,
Yeah.
I just don't want to
Well,
butt heads with him again
We'll talk.
about this.
We'll talk to them, and then
Great.
we'll give you a call. Would you give me a card?
oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
you've got one in here. And actually, I appreciate you sharing that with me because we prefer that families talk to their children versus not. And what we found is they'll get one of two responses. Either A, great, whatever you want to do, we support it. Or B, which it sounds like this might be the case for your son, I don't want to hear about it and I don't want to talk about it. In which case, it defaults back to, great, whatever you want to do, we support it. Now, if it's one of the 2% of the time that they have some input and they want to make some changes, that's great. So what we have found that works for families is, while we're all here together, we've got the paperwork in front of us, let's just get everything started. You only have to make this one payment, and then Kathy, you would have 30 days to talk to your son, and if he had some input or wanted to even get back together with me, then we have all the actual paperwork to review. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if I got in a battle with him, then I could say, well, why don't you talk to Aaron?
Absolutely, and I've done that before, and I think it's easier for them maybe to hear it from a third party. But it's a lot easier for you to talk to your son when you have the actual paperwork to talk to him with.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, what was your birth date again?
9/19/51.
Great. So again, respond. It's similar to I want to think about it, but you're talking about the kids specifically and then transitioning back to the paperwork. Which of these is most comfortable for you?
Well, so we're really getting insurance. Is there a cost to that part of it?
Great question, Al. Absolutely. So it does function as an insurance, but what's nice is they actually give you 6 months, if you have the means, to pay this off in full without any extra cost. 6 to 12 months, it's just $150 flat fee per person, per policy. So essentially you have 12 months to pay it off without any significant cost. After 12 months, it does get kind of expensive, but it functions as an insurance. So when you're looking at it that way, it's a much better option than doing nothing. So if you just did the minimum payment over 10 years, it can end up being about double. However, if you decided to do nothing today, came back in about 10 years, the cost would be double anyhow. So at least you then have the benefit of the insurance. So Al, if you were to pass away in 2 years and you've been making payments for those 2 years, you passed away unexpectedly, the entire rest of your funeral would be forgiven by the insurance company, and Kathy wouldn't have to pay anything else on that day.
Oh,
Does
I
that
see.
make sense? Let me fill out this enrollment form.
Yeah.
They'll give me some more specific numbers, and I can answer that a little bit more
Oh,
intelligently.
good. Yeah.
And what is your social? Which of those would be most comfortable for you?
Well, you know, I was thinking, what if we end up leaving this area? Then we've lost all of that.
Oh, that's a very good question. One of the major benefits of the insurance is that Homesteaders is a national company, and almost every funeral home in the country would honor this plan. So let's say, Al, you moved to Phoenix. You would simply find a funeral home there, you would take all this paperwork, and it would just be transferred. So in fact, you can see this section here is current assignment would be Larkin Mortuary. That's just the piece that they would change. So let me make a note. Who do you want listed as your primary beneficiary? So again, answer and start filling out. You kind of get the pattern there. So last one. This is now the response to you've tried to answer at least 2 to 3 objections, and you feel like there's just nothing is going to happen tonight. You've given it your all. They just refuse. This is how to move forward from there. So Al, it sounds like even with the lower payment, it's
Yeah.
just not something you're comfortable
We
with.
we're not ready today. That's the
Okay.
truth of it. You've done a great job.
Oh,
though.
thanks. And you just want to maybe talk with each
Yeah.
other and your
Yeah.
kids a little bit
And
more
we will
about
get
it.
back to you.
Okay. What I found that's a little bit easier if we just schedule a date versus me having to call you for the next, probably within the next week while it's fresh in our minds. That way I can just come back at the very least answer any questions you have. Is your calendar there on your phone, Al?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and grab that.
Okay.
Let's look at it together. It looks like next week I have Tuesday or Wednesday available. Which of those would be best for you?
Maybe 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. 2 weeks is a little hard only because, believe it or not, if your brain's anything like mine, I'll forget half of this. So let's maybe do, how about Thursday or Friday? Which of those?
Friday
Okay. And is morning or afternoon better?
afternoon.
Okay. So we've got Friday at 3 p.m. Does that work?
Okay.
And if anything changes, call me. My card that you've asked for is right here, and you'll have all of the information to review. Do you have any other questions in the meantime?
No, I don't think so.
So you'll notice anytime you ask someone, grab your phone, is the calendar, just very assumptively schedule that next visit. Otherwise, you'll be calling them for 6 months before you get in touch with them again. And by then, you've lost all of that emotional urgency. Thank you again for choosing to work with us. We're honored, and I'm honored personally that you've taken this time today. I had mentioned earlier about the planning guide, and your question, Kathy, which is a good one, was could I give you this book to give to someone else? You could probably see now, based on the information that we've covered, how it doesn't do a lot of good unless there's someone there to sort of answer their questions. So that's no problem. There's no cost. Now, you said you work with a couple gentlemen that you're very close with, correct?
Right.
What was your one friend's name you were talking
Yeah,
about?
Bill Burns. He's
Okay.
somebody that he's about 70, so
Oh, okay. Great.
he ought to be thinking of something.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's his phone number? Great. And then, Kathy, you said you are in a bowling league?
Yes.
Oh, how fun. I bet
Yes.
that's really fun. Who are a few ladies there that maybe don't already have one of these guides?
Well, there's Susan
Okay.
And I know her husband's getting on in years, and they have not planned a funeral at all.
And what's her husband's name?
John.
Okay, so we'll write that down. And then who's your neighbor next door that you said you guys, they have grandkids about your grandkids' age?
Oh, yeah.
Ezra.
Ezra.
Oh, yes, okay. And what's Ezra's number? So you'll want to continue along this path, but specifically reminding them of people that they've maybe mentioned throughout the presentation. Again, very assumptive. Her question was good, and you'll get that a lot. The answer is this book doesn't really do a lot of good without the information that goes inside of it, which you'll be presenting along with it. The goal on every appointment is that you get at least 2 to 3 referrals. And the good thing on an appointment you don't sell, you'll most likely get more referrals because they feel bad for not buying, so the law of reciprocity kicks in, and that's a perfect time to now ask for referrals. I want to thank you both for choosing to work with us. I'm honored that you spent the time today, and I know you'll both feel very good about having these arrangements completed in advance.
I already feel better.
Oh.
I really do.
Frankly, every time I followed up with people, that's how they feel. It's not something you like to think about, but I think there's a peace of mind that comes with having it done. How do you feel, Al?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
It wasn't as bad as I thought.
Yes. Good. Well, that's always good news. And tell me more about, you have a vacation coming up. Where is that going to be?
Yeah, we're going to take a trip.
Oh, good. Is it
Go
just the
visit
two of you?
relatives.
No, we're going with our kids, and we're going
Oh.
to go on a cruise to Mexico.
Oh, how nice. That sounds lovely. And do you have a lot of extended family?
Not really. We're a pretty small family for Salt Lake City.
Oh, good. So you'll want, after the sale is done and the paperwork's put away, you want to make sure you spend at least 5 to 10 minutes in a warm down. You can get up, you can walk around, point out photos, but it's important that they don't feel like you got their money and you're out the door. So make sure once things are put away that you're spending time in the warm down. You'll also call them on the phone the next day to see if they have any questions and send a follow-up thank you card.